Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Sportsnite. This is Sportsnite episode 11. And tonight, Steve is coming from a very secret location. We're going to say secret location, and Steve will tell you all about it in just a second. But we are back and better than ever, and we're here a little bit early tonight with a special time as we are accommodating our buddy Dan, who normally goes Saturday nights at 7 with Disney Fiasco. But he asked if he could switch with us and if he could go at 8. So be sure to go right over after us, over to Dan's channel, Disney Dan, for Disney Fiasco at 8 o'clock. But as usual, my partner in crime, my buddy Steve from Steve's World. I drew a blank, Steve. Isn't that terrible? We've been talking for 10 minutes and already I forgot. Is here. And Steve, welcome in, buddy. Where are you today?
I am at Holiday World in Santa Claus, Indiana. It's it's amusement park. It's got quite a few coasters, a massive water park. It's got the #1 coaster on the planet 5 years running, and I've been on it twice today. It's incredible. So yeah, I just took a little bit of time out for this, of course, because I didn't want to miss it. So,
well, thank you, buddy. We're glad you're here. Steve, as usual, goes above and beyond to make sure he does not disappoint his partner channels or everybody else out there in the chat. But welcome in, everybody. I want to say hi to a few people in the chat real fast. Welcome in. Rachel Susik's here, Kay Atwood's here, and Andrew Georgi, who's a student, is here. Welcome in, everybody. And tonight we're going to have a good episode, lots of fun. Kind of going to break this up into two halves. In the first half, we're going to do the normal sports talk. And tonight we're going to talk about teams moving cities. And we're going to talk about, kind of give the history of some teams in all the major sports that have moved cities over time. And then we'll talk about how they affect the cities, how they affect the teams, how they affect the fans. And then we'll kind of give our synopsis as to whether or not we think it's a good thing or not. And we'll go from there. Right, Steve?
Absolutely.
All right. But before we do that, a couple real fast shout outs. Obviously, Dean over at the Live Place, theliveplace.com. Monday through Sunday, you can find a stream. If you're looking for one Disney related or something else, you can find it on theliveplace.com. Be sure to check him out. Also, of course, my buddy Steve from Steve's World, who has a great channel, my partner channel. Please check him out. Steve goes live on Mondays with Monday Madness at 8 p.m. And he's got a really special episode this coming Monday, right, Steve?
Yes, I do, with some special guests.
Yeah, absolutely. Game of Thrones is what we'll be talking about.
Yep, we will
be. What was that?
We'll be streaming longer than an hour on that one. It's probably gonna be closer to 2 hours. We're gonna have 3 or 4 guests. One of them, of course, is my buddy Walt right here. So we're gonna have a good time. There's differing opinions.
There's gonna be some arguing. No, I'm just kidding. And of course, Disney Dan as well, great channel as well. And Dan will be on right after us at 8 o'clock with Disney Fiasco. But let's get right into it. So again, tonight we're talking about, we thought we wanted to do something that was kind of interesting, a little bit different. John Hazelton, welcome in as well. Steve, Kay said it looks like you need a little sunscreen, buddy. I'm sure he's been applying it all day.
Yeah. Actually, I've never used sunscreen. I should, but I've never used sunscreen.
At least like a 20, like an SPF 20 or something. I used to be the same way, and I think over the years I've learned to appreciate sunscreen, especially when you get burnt too much. Oh my God, especially with no hair. It's like your head gets burnt so fast. And see, now we're off topic already.
Yes, exactly. It's becoming a trend, man. It's becoming a trend. And
just
to remind everybody in chat, I can't see the chat tonight. So as people come in, if they say something, please just relay it to me. Because this is the first time I've ever streamed mobily. So I can't see anything because I don't know what I'm doing yet. So
no, you're doing great. And I will definitely, if I see something in the chat pertinent, well, everything in the chat's always pertinent. But if anything that has to be relayed, I'll be sure to do so. Don't worry about it. We're just glad you're here.
Thank you.
But I do want to start off just kind of talking about the history, and you can get into it with me too, Steve. We'll kind of go back and forth. Teams moving cities has almost happened since the beginning of these sports has occurred. I mean, you can go back as far as the turn of the century in the 1900s, and teams were moving left and right. And it doesn't matter which sport we talk about, whether it's baseball, basketball, hockey, or football, we've had teams that have relocated on numerous occasions. And we'll get into a few of them. Would you agree, Steve?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, over time, it's not been something that's new to any one sport. I mean, some of the most notorious teams that we have today have come from other cities first. I mean, the New York Yankees were originally, when they moved, they became the New York Highlanders, but before they were the Highlanders, they were the Baltimore Orioles, which is really funny because then when Baltimore lost the Yankees, well, what would become the Yankees, St. Louis Browns moved to Baltimore and became the Baltimore Orioles. So there's been, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. The Braves have moved from Boston to Milwaukee to Atlanta. The Athletics have gone from Philadelphia to Kansas City to Oakland. And that's just in baseball alone. I mean, in football, the Rams have gone from L.A. to St. Louis back to L.A. The Raiders too, right?
Oh yeah, they left and went to Oakland, and now I think they're going to Vegas. So
yeah,
of course, my baseball team, one of those storied parts of history, went from Brooklyn to Los Angeles. So absolutely.
Yep, the Brooklyn Dodgers. They went from Brooklyn, they went to LA, and they've been there a very long time. But that's another one. I want to say hi real fast to Amanda the Lucky Minutes here and Greg Disney's Adventures. Welcome, both of you. Thanks for being here. We are definitely talking sports tonight. Kay Atwood says the Raiders is the one that hurt for her. She must be an Oakland fan for sure. But the Chargers are now moving. They went from San Diego. They're going to LA. I mean, that's just the tip of the iceberg. The Senators, Washington, lost the team twice. They lost the original Washington Senators to the Twins. Then they got an expansion Washington Senators and lost them to the Rangers.
Yep.
And then they took Montreal's team.
Yep. And then the Cleveland Browns, of course, were bad. They left. They got a new team, and they're still bad. So, sometimes it's the city, sometimes it's the team.
Well, and we'll get into that too. I'll say this: Two Real Geeks, welcome in as well. Thank you for being here. That's all right. We're just glad to hear. They said, "Hey guys, sorry we just got in from filming our latest video," and they saying, "What's up?" We're just glad you're here. And Amanda, Lucky Minute, and she's exactly right. I was going to get into the NHL. So we're talking about the North Stars went from Minnesota to Dallas. But there's a ton in the NHL as well. I mean, in the NHL, Steve, I don't know if you could think of any off the top of your head, but you had Winnipeg. They went to Phoenix. Hartford Whalers went to Carolina. And the Quebec Nordiques, they went to Colorado and won the Stanley Cup. So teams lose cities all the time. Now, I wasn't around in the turn of the century. I might be old, but I'm not that old. But I don't know, when it comes to teams moving, Steve, who do you think, in your opinion, and we'll elaborate on this, who does it affect more? The team, the city, or the fans?
Well, I'm kind of got mixed opinions on this. I want to say that it affects the city from a business standpoint more than anything. So, because regardless of what people do or don't like, the sports is a business. You got to make money. If the fans don't come to watch, they don't produce the money for the team, they're going to leave. So, but when they do pull out, I think that the impact the most is if a team pulls out, it's usually because of low attendance. So it doesn't really affect the fans as much as it would the pocketbooks of the city and the revenue that it brings in. So I'm going to go with the city from a business standpoint.
Okay. I definitely think it affects all three. I think you agree there. It definitely affects all three. But to me, it's the proverbial chicken and the egg theory, in my opinion, because you talk about it, fans got to show up for a team to make money. But if the team is bad, why would the fans show up? You're not putting a good product on the field. The whole point of going to see the team is because you want to see a good product. So you got to decide which one, not you, but I'm talking about as a general theory for me, which came first? Was the team bad first, and then you didn't have the attendance, or was the attendance bad and that affected the team? So there's a little bit of, I think, give and take there. For me, I think I've seen examples of all of it. For instance, I'll start with Cleveland. Okay, Browns moved to Baltimore to become the Ravens. Now I live in Baltimore. I'm not a Ravens fan, just so everybody knows. I'll put that out there from the very beginning. But Cleveland did not support the Browns. And here's what I mean by that. Not the fans. The fans were always there. I'm talking about the city. The city built the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. The city built the Indians a new stadium. The city would not help finance a stadium for the Browns. He asked for help. They would not give it to him. He did what he thought he had to do when he moved the team. Art Modell did not want to move that team. That team was brand new in Cleveland when he got it. He founded it there. Him and the original owner. But that's just one example for me where I think the city failed the team. And the fans ultimately, I think, are the ones who are affected the most. Steve, what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. And look, you do have your diehard fans and those people that do go out. There are people, and no offense, but just like you said, you're not a Ravens fan. You really don't care. You're not going to go out and support them necessarily. But if you don't support your own home, like I said, it's a business. If you don't support them, they've got to do something else. So, and on top of that, they also have the option to leave for a bigger market. Now that impacts the fans a lot more than if they weren't showing up to the games and from a business standpoint, they just had to move. So if an owner gets greedy and wants to go to a bigger market, say going from Cleveland to Los Angeles, if there was one to do that, that impacts the fans tremendously, especially those that have dedicated themselves for 50 years to a same team. So I think it all just depends on the situation, and I think that if the fans are supporting the team, it's going to affect the fans more, and if the fans aren't supporting them, it's going to affect the city financially. Of course, the team would never downgrade on a move, so I don't think it affects the team as much. But look what it did for the Ravens. Cleveland can't win, and the Browns can't win in Cleveland. They just can't. They couldn't before. They can't now. When they moved to Baltimore, they became a winning team. So it's just different resources that the city can pump into the team, and I just don't think, for instance, I don't think Cleveland can do that. So some cities I think are gonna just destined to fail in certain sports.
All right, that's fair enough. I get you. I will say this. I think it comes down to leadership. Now, Art Modell was in Cleveland. You're right. But when he was in Cleveland for the longest time, Cleveland actually was a good football team. They made it to the AFC Championship game twice. Now, both times they had to face a guy that played for Denver named Elway. That certainly didn't help their chances. But they weren't perennial bad teams in Cleveland. He had good teams. He really did.
But how long have they been bad, though?
Well, they've been bad for a long time. But that being said, I think they've been bad especially long since they've gotten the new expansion team. Until last year, I think they only had one winning season. So I'm with you, but I think a lot of that, to me, bad teams are bad because of who runs them. Yeah. I think if you take everybody that's on the New England Patriots, owner and everybody, and says, okay, we're moving to, I don't know, what's a bad team right now? Cleveland. Not Cleveland, but another really bad team. You take everybody and just put them on there and use their uniforms, that team's going to be good this year in that city. So I think it has a lot to do with that. But for me, I think the fans are affected the most because they have no say in it. They really don't. Cleveland is a prime example. They supported the Browns, good or bad. That stadium was full every single week, and yet they still lost their team. Hey, Mickey Sightings. I want to say hi to Mickey Sightings, who just came in. I want to say hi to Greg's Disney Adventures. Brandy and Dave are here. Zippity Doodad are here. Thank you all for being here. We definitely appreciate it. We are going to be doing some Toy Story 4 review in the second half of the show, so stick around for that as well.
Spoiler free.
I'm sorry, spoiler free.
Yeah.
Steve is absolutely 110% correct. But I don't know, Steve. I guess for me, it really just depends, especially if it hits close to home. Like for you and I, we have a direct connection with our two cities when it comes to sports teams, Baltimore and Indianapolis, Indiana. We used to have the Colts. The Colts left and went to Indianapolis. The Colts won overnight. Yeah, absolutely.
Just
in February.
Moving vans and left.
Yeah, February of '83, I think it was. But that being said, the Colts were a very good, they were a great team in Baltimore for years and years. They won Super Bowls. They won NFL championships before they were called Super Bowls. So it's not like they were a perennial losing team. Everybody knows who the Colts were, the Baltimore Colts. Johnny Unitas, Raymond Berry, Bubba Smith. They had great, great Hall of Fame players. They left overnight. They went to Indianapolis. Well, they found success in Indianapolis as well. They won Super Bowl in Indianapolis with another great quarterback in Peyton Manning. Two of the greatest of all time. It's funny, two of the greatest of all time played for the Colts.
and if they wouldn't have run into that stupid team from Boston for 6 years, they would have probably had a few more championships. So.
Well, hey, you can only play who you got to play, right?
Yep.
Sorry, folks. I had to let the dog in. The dog wanted in. But
if Zipper Shepper watching, I apologize for my comments.
Hey, it's easy to be a front runner.
Yeah.
Oh no. Hey, New England had their downtimes too. Trust me.
Oh,
Before he got there, they weren't very good for a long time.
Well, and we have the Colts to thank for the success of New England, of course, too, because they're the ones that took out Bledsoe to get Tom Brady a shot. So, thank you, Colts.
That's so funny. Oh, I don't know. I think the guy coaching the team has a little bit to do with it too. He's pretty good.
Maybe.
Yeah, he's all right.
No, he's an exceptionally great coach.
Yep. And it's funny, talking about moving teams, I'm gonna give you a comment that Amanda has in here, and I think this has a very big. This is why I think it affects the fans the most. Amanda says, "I definitely stopped being a hockey fan once the North Stars left Minnesota."
Yep.
And you know what? She's not alone. I can tell you right now, my father loved the Baltimore Colts. It's just not the same with the Ravens. He likes the Ravens. He likes the Ravens. Don't get me wrong. He likes them. But he loves the Colts. It's just, and he'll say it. He'll say, look, they're fine, but it's not the same. So Amanda makes a good point. You really, 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 it can, I mean, if I were to lose the Orioles tomorrow, as bad as they are, I love, love, love my team. I would never be the same again. It's just that simple. What are your thoughts on that, Steve?
No, I agree. And it might be different when you know, like for Cleveland, going back to Cleveland again, where they lost the Browns, but then they got an expansion team. They didn't get another team from another city, so they got an expansion team from and called it the exact same thing. That, you know, that tradition may help a little bit, but yeah, when it's not your team to begin with, then it's hard to adapt, especially if you've lived long enough to basically worship that team that's dedicated and you know been given to you. You know, I would assume I was an LA Raiders fan forever. They left, and now the Chargers are there. They're not the Raiders, and they're not the Rams, which both left LA. So it's just hard. It's hard to accept the new team, especially for the first several years. Over time, you might get it. You might heal the wound, but it's just not the same.
Yeah, and I don't think it ever is. You know, it's just one of those things where you just never get over it. It's like, it's just going to sound corny as anything, I know for most, but it's like that your first love. You never really get over that first love. They're always there in the back of your mind. And it can be the same thing for your professional team too. Now, it might be different depending upon your level of, you know, how much you follow the team, but it's definitely, I agree 100%. It never fully leaves you. I know that for a fact. But Disney Dan's in here too. Dan, welcome in, buddy. I know you're up next. For those who don't know, if you're just coming in, please be sure to check out Dan Next, Disney Dan, over at his channel for Disney Fiasco. He'll be going live at 8. So, yep, I agree 100%. A couple other teams that I thought, it's funny when you really think about it. Some people may not know this, but like the Los Angeles Lakers. Well, they were the Minneapolis Lakers or Minnesota Lakers first. Which makes no sense.
That's why they're called the Lakers, because Minnesota's the land of 1,000 lakes.
Yeah, the land of 1,000 lakes. Exactly. It makes perfect sense. Or like the Utah Jazz. They were originally the New Orleans Jazz, which makes perfect sense. And because you're like, Utah Jazz? Why did they pick that name? Well, if you don't know, it's because they were originally in New Orleans. So it definitely happens more often than people think. But a lot of times teams, when they move, they'll change the name altogether, and then other times they won't. So it just depends. But some teams and towns are lucky enough to get teams back. And I think that's important too, because, for instance, Washington lost a team twice and got a team back. Cleveland was the luckiest of them all. I think the NFL learned its lesson with the Colts. When Cleveland left, they were able to get their team name, the colors, and everything back, and their history back. So that meant a lot. What do you think, Steve?
Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. It makes a difference if you can carry on the same tradition. Like the Cleveland Browns got everybody, the same name, the same town, or the same colors. They go straight into the dog pound and all the other stuff. They kept it all the same. I believe it was in the same stadium too, right?
Yes, to start.
Stadium. So it's just like they took a pause. I know it was they needed that. I honestly thought that was going to be the restart that they needed, starting over fresh. But it just hasn't turned out that way. But it still could someday. But yeah, for a team like that to keep the same history and same tradition, same everything, that's not as bad. But when you're like you talking about, when you go from losing the Colts and waiting several years to gaining the Ravens, that's not the same. So
yeah, it's not. It's just different, and but it happens. I mean, Houston lost their team. They lost the Oilers, and the Oilers moved, and they changed their entire identity. They moved to Tennessee, and they became the Titans.
Yep.
So, it's funny. It happens in all the sports, but the one sport you're going to see it less and less in is baseball. I think that's the one sport. You saw it in 2005. We haven't seen it since.
Yep.
And I think it's going to probably be a long time before we see it again, at least in baseball. You see it all the time in football, which is unfortunate. But what do you think that might be the reason for that, Steve?
Well, in football, you only play 16 games. You only play 8 of them at home. So there's a little more pressure to make money from a business standpoint when you only get 8 games. So baseball, you're going to play 162 games. So you're going to play 81 of those at home. You got a little bit more time. Stadiums sometimes hold a lot more people. So, the loss of income from people not showing up at one game is not going to hurt you as much. So I think most of the time that teams move cities, it's because of a business decision. Strictly business, that's what it is. And that's why we see it less in baseball, because there's a lot more games, a lot more opportunity to make up the money that can be lost if you have there's only 8 games in football. It makes a much bigger difference. Okay.
And see, I think it has more to do with the fact that I think it has more to do with the collective bargaining agreements of these teams and their cities. They have exemptions. I know baseball has an exemption with the government where they can do, even though they are a private company, they can do certain things on their own, where the government cannot interfere. But what I'll say about this is, I was going to say with football, I think back in the old days, I would agree with you that it meant more for the attendance. But in today's world, television drives your money. It's not so much about the attendance in the games. It's about the money revenue from TV. TV is what drives you now. Don't get me wrong. I mean, you don't want your games to not sell out, and you still want to make your money. But the real revenue big guy is television now. That's what does it. The ratings, the money. I mean, these teams are getting billions of dollars from television alone, and it's just crazy money. But, I hate to see teams leave. I don't like it. I wish you could find a way to keep them there. I think that, cities, I wish teams would have an agreement with the city to help them when they need the help, a la teams who need new stadiums.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, I think that goes back to that's part of the whole business decision as well. So if the city doesn't help out the team will leave. But if in reverse, if the city needs help, I think the team should help them out as well. And that because it's a strict business, I just don't think that relationship exists well enough to be able to overcome some of the obstacles.
Right. And that's the thing is, it's kind of a give and take. Like you said, the city can help the team. And the team, how does the team help the city? They help the city by being good and bringing in revenue. People come into the city to see the team. They spend more time downtown. They eat at the local restaurants. They frequent some of the places down there, maybe some of the attractions if you have certain things they can do. You're 100% correct. That means a lot. I know that Baltimore, when the Orioles were good for those few years they were, the downtown area, it really helped them for sure. Two Real Geeks says, how do you feel when all of a sudden the team decides to change who covers their media? Atlanta just went through this year, and from what I hear, many people are not happy. That's a whole nother segment that we might have to get into sometime, talking about who covers the media of the team. We have that here in Baltimore. For the longest time, we had an AM channel that always had all 162 games of the Orioles. Well, that changed a couple years ago. It went to an FM channel. So it was a clearer, much more crisp audio in the games on the radio. So that kind of stuff happens a lot. But like for us personally with Baltimore, we have Masson, which is the Mid-Atlantic Sports Network. It's their network. Just like Boston has Nesson. So I get what he's saying, but that it can affect it, but I think it has less of an effect. Steve, what do you think of that?
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Look, that's why teams leave to go to big markets. Now, I think we see smaller market teams leave more often than bigger market teams. It does happen in bigger market teams, though, but I do think that happens as well. But yeah, I agree with you there. That's a whole nother stream, though. So.
Right. No, absolutely. Yeah. And Mickey Simon says media makes a huge impact. I think it can. It can in some respects. It does make a huge impact for the media. I don't know that it has as much of an impact on the team itself. Like the Orioles went from an AM team to an FM team. It didn't make them any better.
Yeah.
It didn't make them any worse either. It helps the media aspect of it, I think, more than it helps the team aspect. And maybe I'm looking at it the wrong way. And I would like those in the chat, if they want to elaborate on that, they can. But for me, I think, like, for instance, exactly what I said is what Two Real Geeks were saying. They said what happened was it went to an FM station, but it took over for the rock station and made both sides upset. Well, that happens a lot. I mean, where I've seen it where a channel would be all oldies, and then it went from all oldies to all sports talk. You're gonna make people upset. So that happens. Yep. So there you go, folks. When it comes to so let me ask you this, Steve. I guess the bottom line: are you for or against teams moving? And is it that simple?
It's not. Look. I don't blame teams for leaving. I don't like it when teams leave. I think a piece of history dies when they do. Mm-hmm. But at the same token, if the city or the fans can't support the team, I can't fault a team for having to leave to it is a business. And I've always looked at it as a business, and I can't fault them for having to move to make the business successful. So, but at the same token, I do think a piece of history dies when they do move.
Gotcha. Well, I think that here's how I see it in this respect. With teams that are in these cities, especially teams that have been in these cities for decades, you know what you have. You're going to go through downtimes. You're going to go through uptimes. But just because you have a prolonged downtime, that doesn't mean you should cut bait and run.
Yep.
That's how I see it. I think you gotta be able to absorb the ebbs and the flows. Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, if the city isn't and the team isn't being supported for 20 years straight, and you're still putting a good product on the field, that's one thing. But you're going to have downtimes. You're going to have times when you're not doing well. And you know what? You're not doing well. People aren't going to show up. Do better, people will show up. So I get what you're saying. It is a business, but it's a different type of business, and those teams mean a lot to those communities. I mean, imagine if you leave, the amount of people that are going to lose jobs.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That's the other thing too. So,
yep.
So for me, I don't like it. I don't like the teams move. I think there should be a sense of loyalty there to an extent. I think it really needs to take a lot for a team to move. For me. So. Well,
and that's people losing their jobs. Everything goes back to what I said. I think the city is the one that takes the hit the most. So, it can ruin an economy.
Oh, it can. I definitely agree. It definitely can. Two Real Geeks says the WNBA has the most teams move that we have ever seen. Yeah, it's true. They move a lot, but no sport is immune to it. They move in all of them. So there you go, folks. We are at the 7:31 mark. Thank you all for sticking in with us talking about sports. We do this every Saturday night. Normally we go at 8. Dan asked for a little bit of a switch tonight, so he could go a little bit later. So we are obviously more than welcome, more than able to accommodate him. So be sure to check him out next. But now we want to get into something we just couldn't wait to talk about. And I'm wearing my Pizza Planet shirt in honor of it. Steve and I are going to give our spoiler-free reactions, gut reactions, first reactions to Toy Story 4. We both have now seen it. Oh, real fast, Jack, Sandy Claus, Logan, welcome in, and T-Town, Mary Ellen, welcome in. Thank you all for being here. But we're going to give our reviews, kind of an over-review of it, and then we can kind of talk about the characters and things of that nature. Steve, where do you want to start first?
Thinking about non-spoilers. I mean, we can just talk about the animation to start with, maybe.
Sure, go ahead. I'll let you start it.
All right, so the animation-wise...
Yes, I agree 100%. I really like the animation on the characters. It was done really, really well. The whole visual effects are very appealing in the movie. Can really catch your eye. Everything's very crystal clear and crisp. I really enjoyed the animation part of it. I thought it was fantastic. I agree with you there 100%. But let's get into not so much plot, but let's just get into just rhythm of the movie, flow of the movie. What did you think of the flow of the movie?
You know, I honestly didn't have a problem with the flow. I thought it flowed pretty okay. There was a couple instances where it felt rushed, like they could have taken some more time between some scenes, but like you just get from one point to straight into another that I think they could have prolonged a little bit, told a little more story, but overall I thought it flowed pretty decent.
Okay, yep. And again, I agree. This movie is only about an hour and a half long. Mm-hmm. It is not a very long movie at all. I think that's part of it. I agree with you, Steve. It is very, very not rushed. I don't even know if that's the right word. It's just quick. I'll put it that way. But you're right. For the story they told, it flowed well. I agree with you there. Everything made sense. It was very cohesive. Everything, you understood what they were doing. So I agree with you there. I thought the flow of the movie was very good in that respect. From there, what did you think of, without getting into specifics and spoilers, storyline?
So, I've gone back and thought about it time and time again. When the storyline, there's parts I thought were fantastic. I really liked, and to be honest with you, I liked it all the way up to the story part about the end. It was, it was different for a Toy Story movie, which I didn't necessarily have a problem with, but I just don't like how they tied certain aspects from the past to the current, and I also don't like how they wrapped it up. So I would have liked to have seen, and again, this is not a spoiler, but I would have liked to have seen the characters that we grew to love, all of them more interacted, as opposed to some of the main characters you just don't see, like Potato Head and Ham. You do see them, but they're not part of it as much as I would like for them to be. So I wish the storyline would have changed a little bit to include the characters that we grew up with and loved, instead of introducing some of the newer characters.
Gotcha. Now let me ask you, Kay Atwood asks, who is your favorite character in this movie?
In this movie?
Yes.
Woody. Well, okay, let me rephrase that. Woody's always going to be my favorite, but Forky was fantastic. And I honestly wasn't sure from the previews that I was going to like Forky. He was the best part of the movie, probably, in my opinion.
Gotcha.
Comedic, and he was just incredible.
Yeah, well, my favorite is Woody. He always will be. He was my favorite again in this. Now, as for me, when it comes to storyline, I will say this about the movie. Okay, one of the things that worried me from the very beginning with this movie is I thought to myself, Toy Story 3, great ending. Loved it. Fantastic. Great way to end it. I always said, I'm hoping this movie, did they go too far? Was it going to be necessary? And for me, I understood the story they were telling us. I just don't know that it was a story that needed to be told. That's my opinion on it. The characters are great. Lucky Minute said, did you laugh a lot? I laughed. I laughed a good bit. I'll admit this. Look, this movie isn't made for adults. They have adult themes in there here and there, but this movie is made for kids. Kids are going to love this movie.
Yeah.
Kids are going to love this movie, the majority of them. It's not made for adults. Again, they'll throw adult themes here and there in there as hints and things like that. That's all fine and good. But it's made for kids. Kids are going to love it. It was okay to me. I think this was a story that didn't necessarily have to be told. If we ended at 3, I think we would have been fine. I agree with you. I'm not a big fan of the entire thing. The ending was a little bit different. I'll put it to you that way. But I highly recommend everybody go out and see it themselves.
Absolutely.
What I did like about it was I liked the 2 new characters that you necessarily didn't like. I liked the Ducky and what was his name? The bear?
Bunny and Ducky.
Bunny and Ducky, I thought were really funny.
They were awful. They were just downright awful. And I watched the previews, immediately disliked them from the very first preview trailer that I saw. Getting into the movie, thought, okay, these guys might be funny. They're awful. I hate it so much.
I thought they were hilarious.
I wish they would have gotten rid of those 2 and brought in some of the old main. Like, they could have done that same thing with Ham and Potato Head 1,000 times better. I strongly disliked Bunny and Ducky. I thought it was the part of the story that definitely didn't be needed in there.
Okay, well, what did you think?
Outside of one scene.
Oh, what scene was that? Oh, okay. Well, I don't want you to say
ideas, I'm not going to say.
Oh, yeah.
When they're going through their ideas, that was okay. Outside of that, terrible.
Yeah, I did like it. I love all the old characters, Kay, but the 2 new guys were fun. What did you think of Duke Kaboom and Gabby Gabby?
Duke Kaboom, completely useless. The only good part you see in the trailer where he's posing. The rest of it's terrible. I just don't see the point of that. Now, Gabby Gabby was a great character. She, I don't want to go into it, but she played. It was a fantastic character.
Well, her character had depth.
Yes, very much so.
Her character had depth. I will say that. It was.
She evolved.
Yes, and she evolved. I agree. Her character had depth. I agree 100%. Again, the part people were asking about, do you think you're going to see more? Do you think there'll be more Toy Story movies moving forward?
Yes, because they have to. They have to redeem what they did in this one. Look, the only way that you can go from the ending of Toy Story 3, which was the perfect end to a brilliant trilogy, and keep in mind, I'm the guy that loves everything Disney does, so. But to go from that perfect trilogy and ending, the only way that they can redeem themselves is to wrap it all up again in a future Toy Story where all the toys come back to Andy's kids. That's the only way they can redeem this from this ending. This ending was terrible.
Amanda says, what about Bo Peep? I really enjoyed Bo Peep's character. I have no problem with where they went with her character, and they developed her very well. They explained why her character is the way she is. I thought they did that really, really well.
Well, didn't they? Was she in 2 and 3?
She was not in 3.
Okay, so they explained what happened to her,
right?
How she became the way she is by going back and tying it in.
Right.
I thought that part was really good.
Yes,
tying that in was brilliant.
Yeah, they tied her in really, really well and made her story relevant. As to how it plays into this movie. Absolutely. And she's an integral part of this movie and the story of this movie. Yep. So don't worry about that, Amanda. You'll be very happy with her character. I thought she was done really, really well. She was important to the storyline. Well, she is very important to the storyline, for sure. I agree with Steve. I think that there will be more going forward. Because now they've introduced new characters, maybe they'll do like they did with Star Wars and move on to new characters. Who knows? But we'll have to see. We'll have to see. It was for me. Look, it's of the 4 movies that we've had for Toy Story, in my opinion, it's the least favorite for me. For me. Now, again, I loved all of them. I'm a huge Toy Story fan. Woody is my favorite character. I love Buzz and all the rest of them. But for me, it's my least favorite. Where does it rank for you, Steve, of the 4?
You know, okay, I was okay with the movie. Again, keep this in mind. I'm okay with the movie until the very end. Toy Story 3, in my opinion, is the greatest one of the 3. Toy Story 1 is a close second just because of what it introduced. I'm okay with 2. I still think this had potential to be better than number 2, for sure. But I thought the ending was terrible. I really did. It ruined the movie for me.
Okay.
And the Ducky and Bunny, it was awful.
Guys, this is Steve now. This is the Steve we all know and love that loves every movie but probably 4 that you can count on one hand.
Yes.
But,
Ducky and Bunny are just awful.
Gotcha.
Anyway, sorry.
No, not at all. But no, the characters are really, really good. I want to talk about individual characters for a second. I agree with you on Duke Kaboom. I was really hoping for more from the character.
Absolutely.
I really was. He had his funny moments, don't get me wrong, but I was hoping for more of an, do I want to say importance, relevance to the movie, maybe?
Yes.
But I think he's just, but then again, maybe we're overthinking this. Maybe he's just there for comic relief. You know,
you see, what they did in the first 3 movies so well is they had a mass amount of toys, and they all got their point, their story, and their on-screen time. Even these new characters don't get that much. Certain ones do, but some of them don't. Like, I thought Duke Kaboom's parts, I mean, they were short, and he had a little bit of comic relief, but for the rest of it, it just was, I don't know. I don't get it. So,
well, they definitely focused on. Yeah, they definitely focused on certain characters.
Well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree 100%. For me, I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about Gabby's character, but I really thought her character was done really, really well. Yeah, I agree with you. I think out of all the characters, other than the 2 main characters, who are the main characters in this movie, I felt like she was the most with the most depth. I think they really developed her character really, really well.
Yep.
Kay Atwood says, wait, the traditionalists liked it, but Steve, who loves new stuff, didn't. The world is upside down.
No.
I think actually, Kay, I'm gonna quantify. Yep. Steve liked it up to the end.
Yep.
I personally, and it's the least of my favorites.
It's been getting mixed reviews. There are a lot of people slamming it for the way it ended. And like I said, I think they fall in line with me. It was pretty good until the ending. It was okay. I was okay with the story. Traditionalists will hate this movie, I think. I think they will absolutely hate the whole movie. I liked the movie up to the end.
I'm trying to be positive.
Yes, I know.
I am trying to be positive with this, but don't worry, guys. Look, I really think that if you may love it, and I hope you do, and that's the whole point here is our job is to just give our review of what we thought of it. Yep. And for me, I'm always it's really hard for me to be impressed with a movie. I mean, I've told people this 100 times. I'm kind of a movie prude, so to speak. So it takes a lot to really get me on board with stuff, especially when we're looking at 4th, 5th, 6th sequels and movie redos and remakes. I like new content as much as possible, stuff that's really ingenious and just different. AJC Magic TV, welcome in. Thank you for being here. Don't worry, guys. No spoilers here at all. Didn't you see in here what's going on? Yep. Don't worry about that. I think overall, I don't know. I can't. We'll have to have a spoiler review soon as well, so we can really get into it. But I do recommend everybody go see it.
Well, let me be clear. I went and watched it. I would go watch it in the theater again, knowing that I would be unhappy at the end. So, but it was still well done. The animation is incredible. I was okay with the story for the most part. I could have done without 2 or 3 characters. So up to that point, it was okay. But it doesn't make sense. The ending to me just does not make sense. And that's all. I got to leave it at that because we can't spoil it. But
Right.
I don't get it. They could have done so much, and it could have wrapped up to have been one of the greatest. It wouldn't have been the best, but it could have been up there with the other two, the 1 and 3. But they left it dry.
Right.
I don't get it.
Yeah, I'll say this for my opinion. I thought it was a story that didn't need to be told. I thought it was an unnecessary story that didn't need to be told. And I'm big on story. Story means a lot to me. I don't think we had to tell this story. And I agree with Steve. I thought the ending was disappointing.
Now, I will say this. I disagree with you slightly on the story not needing to be told, because maybe it didn't need to be told, but it introduces an aspect in I can't give it. I can't. We'll talk after. There's an aspect of it in what happened to Bo and all that, and some of those others in the store.
Right.
That I thought that was a great story to tell.
Okay.
But again, they didn't do it right.
Yep. But there you go, folks. Again, overall, not a bad movie. Not one of my favorites. Definitely my least of the 4 favorites. Steve didn't mind it, just didn't really like the end as much. But overall, I really think if you have kids, your kids are going to love it. Yeah, I'm telling you, they're going to love it. There's a lot of funny parts for kids in this movie, adults too.
There are a couple, just to pre-warn you, there are a couple instances that made me jump. So I think they've done it in other Toy Stories as well.
Yeah.
It's more of just a creepy jump, but so if you got little ones, they might jump once or twice during the movie, but it's not bad.
Gotcha. Okay. Gotcha. Yep. No, absolutely not. RVing to Disney says, I haven't seen it, but Mouse Talk, they might have purposely made this storyline for a future. Absolutely.
That's what they did, in my opinion.
That's what I agree. 100% RVing to Disney. 100%. And it'll make more sense if that's the case. That's fine. Okay. And after everybody sees it, we can get into that more. Is it entertaining? Yeah, it's entertaining.
For sure.
Our AJC Magic TV says entertaining. It's entertaining. Kids are going to love it. Kids are going to love it. They really will. Yep. Little girls are really going to love Bo Peep. And I think little girls are going to like Gabby Gabby.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think they ultimately will. I really, really do. But they're going to love Bo Peep. And Bonnie's great in this as well. Forky's cool. I'm not as big on Forky as you were, but I thought he was funny.
Oh, I thought Forky was great. And Bonnie's parents are funny too.
Oh, yes. Yeah. That's where the adults might really get a kick, especially dads. There's a few dad scenes in this with her dad that are really funny. Yeah, that's true. I forgot about that. I'm not a little girl, but I like them both. Zip said that. Zippity Doodad said that. He says, I'm not a little girl, but I like them both. There you go. Zip liked them too.
Zip actually told me he thought it was the best ending of all of them. And I just couldn't go there. I understand after thinking about it. I mean, Zip and I talked about it offline, but I understand. That's why I said I slightly disagree with the story, because I do know where they went with it. It just didn't make me happy. Just because I don't like it doesn't mean it's not a great ending for somebody else.
Well, we'll get into it afterwards too, because I'll tell you why I don't think it's a good ending. But Andrea Houston, welcome in. Good to see you. We got about 9 minutes, guys. So that's our review of Toy Story. I don't want to go too much further because I don't want to spoil it for you. Knowing me, I'll say something I shouldn't. So I don't want to spoil it, but I do want to talk a little bit more Disney, Steve, before we head out, buddy.
Okay.
Miguel Benitez, welcome in. He says, sorry I'm late, y'all. Got home from Toy Story 4 a bit ago and then had to put the kiddos to bed. We just gave our review, Miguel. Miguel, you can give us a review too on a scale of 1 to 10. Let us know what you thought, buddy. But Steve, you're coming up on 60 days if I'm not mistaken, correct?
60 days today. I did my fast passes this morning before I came to the amusement park. So
yay!
Very happy.
Did you get what you wanted?
I did, and I learned something. So I'm going for 11 or 12 days. There's a max limit that you can book on Fast Pass Pluses. So I booked. I've got some people coming to join me at the end of the trip. So I started at the back end of my trip, booked those from the 27th to the 31st. Then I started back at the front of my trip 3 days, and there were 3 days in the middle, the 25th, 26th, and 24th, 25th, 26th.
Right.
I couldn't book fast passes because it said I reached my max limit. So
Oh,
apparently there's a limit of how many fast pass pluses you can do in advance, which I was unaware of.
wow. Okay. But you got everything you wanted. Did you get a flight of passage?
I'm doing flight of passage 3 times. Well, no, I lied. I changed one of those. I'm doing flight of passage twice, and I went ahead and switched one of them to a Navi River journey just to make sure I can get on that just in case.
Okay. How about a Seven Dwarfs Mine Train?
I got on that. One day I've got Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, Space Mountain, and Big Thunder Mountain. Another day I have, which Epcot I don't care about because the tier 2 of there are kind of low, but I did get Test Track one day, and I got Soarin' another day. Those are the 2 I care to worry about. Another day at Magic Kingdom, I did get I got Pirates, Haunted Mansion, and Peter Pan. So I was able to get some of the bigger rides there. And then at Hollywood Studios, I got Slinky Dog, Rock and Roller Coaster on different days, and Star Tours. So
Did you you did get a Slinky?
I did get Slinky, yeah.
Great. How about Alien Swirling Saucers? Did you try or?
Yeah, it was available, but that's the day that when I went to book it said you can't book anymore. So I don't technically have one, but I'm okay if I don't have one for that. It's a good ride, but it's not one that usually for me has a long line by the times I go. So, but the benefit for me is that I arrive on a Wednesday and not the weekend. So the front half of my vacation, when I was trying to book fast passes, some of the rides weren't available. So I couldn't get onto some of the flight of passages and things like that because the people that come in the weekend before me got those first. Coming in on my Wednesday, the second half of my trip, I had whatever I wanted at whatever time I wanted because I'm booking before the people that are going to come in the Friday after me because usually people arrive on a weekend. So coming in on a Wednesday for the second half of your trip is stellar.
Nice. Okay. So were you not able to book for the end of your trip?
No, I started at the end of my trip. So,
okay.
I started at the end of my trip and worked my way backwards to the 27th. Then I went back to the front end of my trip and booked from there until it told me I couldn't do it anymore. So that's the reason why I've got the 3 days in the middle that I wasn't able to get.
Okay.
But yeah, I got in the second half of my trip, the 27th through the 1st, I got everything I wanted. I could have whatever I wanted. It was all available. There wasn't anything, not a thing on that list on any park that I couldn't get. The front half of my trip, flight of passage was gone, and that was really the only thing that was out was the first 3 days the flight of passage was not available. Everything else was still available.
Good. And that's what I've been learning, and I learned this from other people, is when you get to your 60-day booking window, which for us is Tuesday, the 25th, they say to start in the back and work your way forward.
If you want some of the bigger rides, start in the back is exactly right.
Yep. Okay. All right. Yep. Because ours is Tuesday, and Tuesday night when we go live, we will be talking about our fast passes to let you all know what we got, what we didn't get. I do want to let you know, it's funny, I just read today that the walls are down at the Skyliner turn station near the Disney Boardwalk. So the walls are all down at the turn station. You know how it turns? I think it turns from the boardwalk to go towards Hollywood Studios, if I'm not mistaken, right there. All the walls are down now. I don't think that's a boarding and a loading and unloading. It's just a turn station.
But I do think that they are. I think we're going to see some openings, even if it's not. It may not be the full opening, but I think we're going to see at least the Hollywood Studios path to maybe the Pop Century or the Caribbean Beach. I think we're going to wind up seeing that here, maybe the last week of July, first week of August.
Well, I hope you're right. I think it's an integral part of the flow of the crowd, and it'll take a lot of stress off the buses.
Yep, and I think they're going to want that, and they're going to need that. So,
yes, I agree 100%. I think it takes off a ton of stress on the buses to be able to let people who are staying at Art of Animation or Pop Century or the Riviera, well, not the Riviera, but the Boardwalk or Coronado, to be able to not have to wait for buses, and it'll really, really allow for more buses for those who are going to Grand Floridian, the All-Stars, or whatever, what have you.
Yep.
Yep, I agree 100%. trying to get a few more things here. Of course, for those that don't know, and this is big, Steve, and we're going to spend the last 3 minutes on this before Dan starts, and maybe we should wait on this.
What is it?
You know they're doing a virtual queue for Star Wars Galaxy's Edge in Disneyland?
They're doing a what?
A virtual queue.
I'm not aware of that.
Yep. It's a whole we would need another hour to talk about this.
What are we talking about? Rise of Resistance queue or
no, to get into Disneyland. Just to get into Galaxy's Edge.
Just to get into Galaxy's Edge is going to be a queue?
Yep. They will using the Disneyland app. This is what it says. It says to help guests squeeze the most fun out of their days at the Disneyland Resort this summer, we are introducing a virtual queuing system to receive a boarding pass for access to Star Wars Galaxy's Edge that will be used as needed beginning June 24th. This means that while waiting to travel to Batuu, guests can have lunch, experience favored attractions across the resort, or take in a parade or show. They'll be notified when it's time to enter the land. Be sure to download the Disneyland app before you do.
Okay, we talked about that. That's something we talked about they should do. So that's good news. I get what you're. I thought you meant. I don't know where my head was. I thought you meant there was going to be a queue line to get into Galaxy's Edge, and that they were going to do some kind of virtual reality type thing. No, that they definitely should do that.
Yes. And what? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's right. Yeah, you don't want your people, especially. Like, I'm hoping they do that for us because you don't want.
Right.
Although we want to stand in line, we want that experience. We want to do some of these things that we've been telling people we were going to do. You know, you're going to lose a whole day to 2 days of your vacation if you're standing in line, and that heat is going to be it's going to be unreal.
Yes.
They're already talking about how bad the heat is right now. It's hottest in August. So,
yep.
So I think that's a brilliant idea because, like a buzzer system, you just go or whatever it is, you go and enjoy the rest of your vacation, enjoy the rest of your day. Just come back that way you don't have to stand in that hot line.
Yeah, real fast. The queue is different. This reservation system is different than the reservation system that they're already doing. It's different. Yeah. So I don't want to get into it major, but they are doing this, and they think that this is what's going to happen at Walt Disney World. But we are at 8 o'clock, folks, so we're going to hop off. Be sure to check out Disney Dan coming up next over at his channel for Disney Fiasco. Real fast, Steve, Monday night, Steve's World, Monday Madness. We're talking Game of Thrones this week, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yep. So that's going to be great. Please check out Steve's channel. He's got a wonderful channel. Anybody in here, I think everybody has. But anybody who hasn't, please go check out his channel. He's a wonderful partner channel. We're lucky to have him. He does Monday Night Madness. He does, of course, Saturdays with us here doing Sportsnite, and then this and that with him, the Chef family, Brandy and Dave, and Zippity Doodad. Now, those will fluctuate each week, but be sure to check them out. And, of course, our other channel, partner channel, Disney Dan, who's going live now. So we're going to get off so you guys can go over there. And for us, Tuesdays, Mouse Madness. Thursdays, Disney Talk. Saturdays right here with Sportsnite. But, and of course, the liveplace.com. Check them out as well. And tomorrow, Disney Dan and I, a special Star Wars Sunday episode. We will be reviewing with a special guest, Rogue One, at 4 o'clock on Disney Dan's channel. Be sure to check that out. It's going to be epic. It's going to be a lot of fun. And then finally, Community Spotlight this week. A Disney Life for me, Miguel and Dee. Please check them out. Another great channel who are fantastic people. If someone could throw Miguel's link in there at Disney Life for me, I'd appreciate it. They are a great channel. We'll be definitely hosting and spotlighting them all week. And other than that, folks, we definitely appreciate you coming out. Head on over to Dan. Let him know I sent you. Let him know Steve sent you. And until then, everybody, hope you enjoyed tonight. Take care of yourselves and each other. And we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye, everybody.